Here is my gaming laptop. It has a Ryzen 9 5000 series, can't remember what type it is, I just got this thing like 5 days ago, and a RTX 3060. I'm playing Halo Infinite right now, and I'm getting currently about 50 or so FPS. The settings I'm using are 1080p, and of course native 1080 for internal resolution, and preset set to high. Now this is on wall power, and I'm hovering in the 50s. So let's do this.
It's so full of more monsters coming to kill us.
You're gonna need to clear me somewhere to land.
Incoming.
I'm gonna take you with me. Hey, I took a grunt with me. Nice. So as you saw that run, I was in like the 50s to 40s. Alright? So watch what happens when I disconnect it from wall power. Explain this bullshit to me, 343 Industries. My frame rate's gonna fluctuate significantly now, but I'm getting better performance on battery power. Explain that to me, 343 Industries. I fucking dare you to. And of course, if I rerun that same course.
Place. It's so full of more monsters coming to kill us.
Again, the frame rate's fluctuating significantly more because I'm on battery power. But the times it gets to a higher frame rate is significantly more.
Incoming.
Yeah, I took a few jackals with me that time, I think. I know I took a grunt with me. So, again, the frame rate is fluctuating because, again, I'm on battery power now. And yet, I get higher peaks of frame rate on battery power. Explain that bullshit to me, 343 Industries. I fucking dare you to. I would love to see the explanation. So, that's not where this ends. I'm actually in the process of recording a long ass video comparing Halo Infinite campaign performance to other games I have on my computer. So, you wanna know how bullshit this is? My main rig here has a Ryzen 5 5600G. That processor is only about like 4 days old now at this point. I just got it. And a RX 6600 XT. This is a decent mid-tier gaming rate that I can play basically all my games at 1080p, max settings, 60 FPS bare minimum, an average of around 100 or so FPS, even 200 depending on whatever game I'm playing at the time. So, here's the kicker. If I play the very beginning of Halo Infinite campaign, I get a very constant 60 FPS. And that's with the game set to 1080p, but an internal resolution of fucking 4K. And it doesn't matter where I am most of the time. There is one where it does a dip, but most of the time it's in the 60s. So let me go over here. So watch this. I'm holding this core, and once I go into here, the frame rate dies. Now watch what I do. Oh, actually I'm going over settings. So I'm going to go back into the corridor. And the instant I look at that corridor, my frame rate goes back up. It actually goes up even higher now. I throw it out. I go back through that corridor, and my frame rate is more or less stabilized. So what I do now is I go find another core, and I go exactly out again, but this time my frame rate's normal. But of course, when I go over to about here or so, the frame rate starts taking a bit of a dive. But still in a playable state. It's a shame that I'm getting this frame rate on a 6600 XT, but still, this is more than playable, and the game looks fantastic still. So, you want to know what happens when I go to the overworld? I got done being the boss. I use the elevator. Notice how I'm getting great frame rate. Of course, I'm going through the settings because this is actually part of the longer video, so I'm just going to skip for a second. So it's now loading in the next level. Sorry about not doing the. I'm using a camcorder right now. And once I go into the next one, when I go to the overworld, my frame rate dies. And this is at 1080p native with an internal upscaling of 4K. Now, of course, here you see me going through everything again. I turn it down to 1080p, which you really can't see due to the but turning it down to internal 1080p does absolutely nothing to the frame rate. I even go as far as going to 720p internal. That does nothing. And then what I do next is I turn off I go to low. It brings the frame rate up, but the game looks like garbage. So then what I do after I get done scrolling is I turn off borderless mode. Actually, no, I changed some of the settings. Give me a second. I'm trying to remember exactly how everything goes, but I eventually go to windowed mode. And even windowed mode, this is at 720p low. And I'm only getting 37 FPS. And this is with a RX 6600 XT. And yet my laptop here actually gets better performance. Now here's the kicker. Resident Evil 8 Village. If I go here, I'm getting about 50, 60 frames a second, but of course that's because Big Mommy's on screen. Big Mommy takes up a lot of GPU horsepower. But this is well playable. And also her AI, stupid smart. Or not stupid smart, crazy smart. Resident Evil 8 Village runs completely fine. War Thunder, 135 FPS. And this is with War Thunder set to 1080p, everything to maximum settings. And I'm getting over 100 FPS most of the time. Cyberpunk 2077, 1080p, everything ultra, ray tracing turned off. About 48 or so FPS. Well playable, fairly smooth, beautiful looking game. Buggy as hell, but beautiful looking. Forza Horizon 5, 80 or so FPS, everything 1080p, or everything at 1080p, ultra settings. This game runs flawless on my rig. And yet, Halo Infinite does not run well at all on this system. And yet, my laptop here actually, like I keep saying, gets better performance. So let's plug it back into battery. Kick those fans in. And lose that 60 FPS I was getting before. I would love to see a proper explanation to Forza Industries. This is about a shit.